Can I beat every Mario game if the floor is lava? No, of course not. Doing something like that would look like this. So in order to make this challenge more interesting, let's add a few rules to it. Number 1, the floor is entirely made of lava except for where I start in a level. Basically, I'm allowed one big jump to get to a higher platform. Number 2, only doing the first level. Trying to beat each game with the floor as lava is way too much for this one video. So if I beat the first level, then that game's a success. We'll discuss the rest of the rules when we get to the 3D games, but for now, let's see how far we can now get in Mario 1. Yeah, this challenge is still gonna be hard, isn't it? Level failed! Okay guys, the older games at the start are way harder to get progress, but trust me, by the time we hit the 3D games, the strategies will be a lot more interesting. Alright, Mario 2 is next, and we don't even start on the ground, just mid-air, so we are good. Except we quickly have this door in our way that we have to touch the ground to enter it. So yeah, we don't get that far here either. Level failed! But now let's move on to lost levels, and as you can see, we have a Koopa bouncing towards us on the very first screen. So we can use him and jump further, and yeah, still not even close to making it off the floor. I mean, that's progress though, right? Level failed! Here we have Mario 3, and there's a Goomba now on the very first screen. This time, I could actually use him to bounce up to these question mark blocks over here. Yes, we are getting somewhere. There are a bunch of elevated platforms here too that I used to get to this single question mark block. So I took a running start into a leap of faith in which I bounced off these group of Goombas, but I couldn't get much further than that. I even tried this jump a bunch of times with no progress. But wait, this game has the Tanuki suit power-up that lets Mario fly. And by hitting this block with the shell and then this one right after, I actually got the suit. Then after trying to run fast off these platforms for a decent amount of time, I barely had enough runway to fly. Yeah! So I flew all the way over that giant lava floor and landed on these platforms on the other side. Then I was able to platform across all the other platforms until I reached the very end of the level. But I was too short for the very last jump. No, so close. Wait a sec, I have another idea. I reset the level, did that initial liftoff thing again, but this time when I landed, I used all my momentum from the flight to bounce off this Koopa and got up to this platform of clouds in the sky. And from there, I did another liftoff and flew way up here using all of my flight until I slowly started to drift down towards the final goal and... oh, so close. That was like a pixel away. All right, let's try that again, but now I am absolutely mashing the crap out of my controller this time. And I was able to reach the end without touching the ground at all. Level complete! Guys, things are now starting to ramp up, so subscribe if you want me to make more challenge videos in the future. Mario World is next, and... aha, yeah, we really get no progress with this one. But luckily, this game has 2 first levels, and if we go to the other one, we can actually use this odd belly diving Koopa thing over here as a way to bounce up to this platform. And then, well, that's about it. Yeah, this platform is at such a weird angle, so you really can't get any speed or momentum from it. And we're not even close to hitting the bonsai build to use as a platform. Level failed! Moving on to Mario Land, which starts off with this convenient pipe and platform to immediately jump to, and that's about it. Yeah, there's no momentum in this game either, so your puny jump is not going anywhere past this first screen. Level failed! Mario Land 2, everybody! And this one is even worse than the first Mario Land. We can't even get on any platforms. In fact, this game starts with this long stretch of nothing, so yeah. Level failed! Okay, these are starting to get repetitive now, so why don't we move on to the 3D games with a lot more interesting strategies in them. But before we start with Mario 64, let's look at the last 3 rules for this challenge. Number 3, the first level starts from the star selection. In the 2D games, it was pretty easy to know where the first level starts, but for 3D, I'm gonna have it start from the very first star you can select. Number 4, I can't die to a cutscene, meaning if I start back on the floor after a cutscene finishes, then I repeat rule number 1 and have another attempt to jump back to somewhere elevated. Number 5, all players have to not be touching the ground at all times. This is so I simply can't just carry a second player the whole way. So with all that out of the way, let's continue to Mario 64. The first star is Big Bob-omb on the summit, and I can immediately jump to this slightly elevated rock here. Luckily in this game, your long jump gives you a ton of range, so I used that to jump to these blocks. From there, I was able to get on this green rock, and finally made it to this tree, but then I was pretty well stuck. There weren't any nearby platforms even close to me. Even using this Goomba to bounce on didn't get me anywhere. I did also try this tree at the start to get to the surface above, and I did make it there, but I was still short of reaching the next tree. Level failed! Mario Sunshine is next, and I see potential in this because of your water jetpack you can use. So I selected the first shine, hovered to this close by tree, and climbed to the top of it. Then I quickly got to this jump that looked pretty far, but by performing a perfect spin jump and hover, I barely made it over. Then I climbed on these structures and jumped from tree to tree until I got as close as possible to the boss. Now normally, you have to spray this boss from a pretty close distance on the ground. But I was actually able to snipe him from all the way up here. Yeah, I want to see hashtag MLGBits in the comments. And I was able to fully defeat him from all the way on these trees. But then I got teleported on the ground in front of him. What the heck, game? I'm trying to do a challenge here. But that was a cutscene, so I have the opportunity to make a jump out of here, which I did and got to this other tree. So I performed a perfect triple jump into a hover, and I was barely short of reaching the star. Luckily though, there was a bunch of these tight ropes over to the side here. So I simply hovered to them, bounced all the way up here, in which I was barely able to make it to this upper tightrope. And then I just went straight to the shine. Level complete! Now let's move on to the first of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, and... oh, we're going back to this, huh? Yeah, this brick is way too far away. There is a Goomba slightly off screen, but he'll never walk to the start. You have to walk over there for him to spawn in. Level failed! Mario Galaxy, here we go. The first star is in Good Egg Galaxy, which starts you off on this little rock platform. And the closest thing to jump to is this tiny bridge here. But after I tried it a few times, it was simply too far to make it to. However, this pipe was just barely close enough to reach with a long jump spin jump combo. But I was forced to enter it, which made me touch the ground. But I found a solution to this too, because I found that when I immediately jumped, I wasn't forced into it. So I kept doing that until I hit this wooden rail. Then I continued to carefully walk along this, which turned into a castle until I got to the top. And here I skipped the Luma and jumped straight to the launch star, which conveniently puts us on this little rock platform here. But inconveniently, this is about as far as we can go. There's no elevation or anything to jump to on this entire planet. And we have 5 star pieces scattered around it that are on the floor. Level failed! Back to the new Soup series with the Wii version now. And at the start of the first level, a Goomba will walk towards you, so it can be used as a platform to get on these blocks. But from here, there's this giant spinning wheel that I have to get by with no other platforms. I mean, except for this little Goomba, but even by doing that, I am barely short of reaching this second Goomba. So we're stuck here. Level failed! Right back to the Galaxy series though with Galaxy 2. The very first star puts you in Sky Station Galaxy. And on this first planet, normally you have to go to the complete other side of it, break this crystal thing, and fall back down to the side you started on. But that's a lot of lava ground to get by. Luckily, if I backflip, spin jump, wall jump, spin jump, drift, we can skip this whole planet and get up to the platform, in which I can take the launch star and land in a big pool of lava. But even if we could continue from here, there's nowhere to go anyways, as you can't even stand on these fences. Go right through them, in fact. And these enemies are too far to get to as well. Level failed! Mario 3 Land is next, and the first level starts in this field of grass. But oof, I forgot how much your jump sucks in this game. Yeah, we're not even close to making it anywhere. Even if we could make it to this sign, that's really it. You can't even make it to the block next to it. Level failed! New Super Mario Bros. 2 is next, and yet again, we're stranded on this first screen. Like before, a Goomba is close by, but barely off screen, and will never walk towards you until he loads in. Level failed! Now let's look at the last of the new Soup series with the Wii U version. In this first level here, luckily this time a Goomba comes right towards me, so I used him to bounce on these blocks over here. What's even better though is immediately after, a squirrel enemy with the squirrel suit walks right over, so I can kill him easily and get the power up. And barely not touch the ground here too. Now this suit allows me to do this massive spin jump into a glide in which I can clear some pretty significant distance now. And there was quite a lot of blocks in the air for this level. So by using this suit to clear these gaps, I pretty easily got past this whole stage. Oh yeah, level complete! Mario 3D World is an interesting one because we can actually select different characters with different abilities. And Peach can actually float, so I'm gonna select her. I can immediately use a spin jump followed by a float to land on these rails here. Then I just tiptoed across the rails all the way over here until I hit a wall. But the spin jump was actually super helpful here, as I could spin jump into a wall jump, into a float, and then dive to the top rail. Up here there were more rails to walk on, and even tinier rails, which led me to this clear warp pipe cannon. I had to avoid the cannon though, as it would have put me right back on the ground, so I just took a leap of faith and landed on these bottom rails now. And yep, these things extended all the way across the level until we get to the final obstacle, which is this giant wall now. This one was much bigger than the first wall though, so I kept trying this a bunch of times, but barely didn't quite make it and kept bonking my head. Yeah, sorry Peach. Until, boom, there you go, I finally made it to the top without hitting the ground. And from here I can easily make it to the flag. That one was close. Level complete! Super Mario Odyssey is next. Now, there's not a level select for this one, so I'm just gonna start at the very beginning. And I'm gonna consider this little circle as an elevated platform, not lava. So I can use this tiny area to triple jump to this rail here. And just like Mario 3D World, I use this edge railing to walk all the way around until I get stopped by the Cappy cutscene, which puts us on the ground after. But now we have Cappy, so we can use his abilities to be much more agile as we move around the environment. So I immediately jumped to this Cap ship and continued on. There's actually a lot of platforms here in this initial area, so I quite comfortably got to this first switch that created this giant bridge. And luckily, this bridge had some more rails that I used to walk on all the way to the first door. Then by using some clever cap throwing and a perfect dive into the door, I made it in it, still without touching the ground. We do get placed on the ground, but it's from a cutscene, so I can immediately jump to the rail again on the side. Then I got all the way to these frogs and captured one before hitting the ground, which puts me in yet another cutscene. Saved by the cutscene, that's the motto here. This frog part wasn't a cakewalk either though. However, if I shook my controller, I could perform this super high frog jump that I used to immediately get to the water. And guys, before you say that's cheating, clearly the water is above the ground down there. I'm floating over it, essentially. Plus, how can water be lava, really? So I jumped up from the pool to the rails to the pools again, and I was actually able to reach all the way up to the top of this mountain thing. And from all the way on these boxes over here, I managed to dive into the door. Out here, I jumped to more of these capped ships and another railing until I walked all the way up to the boss battle. And I literally have to touch this ground here in the arena. Yeah, I don't know with this one really. Would you guys consider this boss arena to be lava or its own platform since it's on these elevated bricks? I mean, the platform looks like grass, similar to the rest of the ground, but it's this different colored white grass. Because if it is, then we technically can beat the first level, Cap Kingdom, but if not, then it ends here. That means this is level... I don't know, you guys decide in the comments. Let's move on to Bowser's Fury. This game starts with Mario falling all the way down on this foot crater, I'll call it. And I was trying to get to one of these trees over here, but was barely not making the jump throughout many attempts. Luckily though, this game has an even better spin jump in it, so I used it, plus a dive to get on the tree. Then, like some sort of Tarzan, I jumped from tree to tree until I made it to these side rocks here. So I used them to walk all the way to this ship, where there was this other side rail, and then Bowser showed his face space for the first time. Bowser was for the boys though, as he created this nice little stone path that led me to the first cat shine. And I will consider that the end of the first level. So, level complete! And now we come to the most recent Mario game, Mario Wonder. And the first level starts off like this. But wait, we can select another character this time, so why don't we use Yoshi and just flutter over? Aha, yeah, this one's still not even close. And no Goombas come in this area either. Level failed. Hey, if you like challenges like this, then let me know in the comments and subscribe for more. See you later.